Look at this table. These are the countries with the most people with natural blonde hair in the world. As you can see, Sweden is number 1, with over 70% of Swedes having this hair colour. Yet globally, only around 2% of people are natural blondes. So why do so many Swedes have blonde hair? Has this always been the case? And what other factors have been involved in the evolution of blonde hair in Sweden and more broadly? Now, blonde hair in Europeans is primarily caused by genetic mutations that reduce the amount of eumelanin, and a key driver of this change comes from a mutated allele, RS128-21256, of the KITLG gene. As an interesting side note, some Melanesian populations also have natural blonde hair, but this is caused by a completely different genetic mutation than the one found in Europeans and many others around the world. It's fascinating though, how the same trait can evolve independently in different parts of the world. But did this Eurasian blonde hair genetic mutation originate in Sweden? Well, ancient DNA shows that the oldest fossil known to carry this mutated allele in the KITLG gene is a 17,000-year-old ancient North Eurasian specimen from Avantova Gora in southern Siberia. So the origin of blonde hair was most likely in Siberia or around this area, not in Sweden. But how did this trait first arrive in Scandinavia then, and who was the first person with blonde hair in ancient Sweden? Now, we know that the earliest populations in this region after the Ice Age were Mesolithic hunter-gatherers, often called Scandinavian hunter-gatherers. And this group was created from the mixing of Western hunter-gatherers moving north and Eastern hunter-gatherers moving west. Now, we know that Western hunter-gatherers largely had dark brown hair and blue eyes, with the genes for blonde hair largely absent from them. It was arrivals from the east that changed things, however, in the form of Eastern hunter-gatherers. This is because ancient North Eurasians contributed genes to them before they moved west towards Europe. So how old is this blonde hair gene in ancient Sweden then? Well, it may be way older than we initially thought. A really interesting paper was published in Nature in 2018. It analysed data from over 200 ancient individuals from southeastern Europe who lived between 12,000 and 500 BC, and it compared them against a wider reference panel from across Eurasia. They found that this blonde hair allele was present in 3 hunter-gatherers. As this map shows, the first hunter-gatherer with this allele was from Samara in ancient Russia, the second was from Motala in Sweden, and the third was from Ukraine. And we know that this Motala hunter-gatherer was a woman who lived more than 7,500 years ago, dated between around 5,900 and 5,500 BC. We also know that she belonged to the mitochondrial haplogroup U5A2D. Now, before this year, she was considered to be the oldest sample, the oldest person that had this blonde hair allele in ancient Sweden. However, a new paper that was published just a few months ago seems to have found an even older sample from the same general region though. It was published in PNAS, and the study analysed 348 ancient genomes from across Eurasia, describing how skin, eye and hair colour evolved over the past 45,000 years. And they found that a hunter-gatherer from ancient Sweden who lived approximately 12,000 years ago, called Neo27, was predicted to have blue eyes, blonde hair and light skin. A quite remarkable find. Now, if this new 12,000-year-old sample is correct, it means that blonde hair alleles were already present in Scandinavia thousands of years before Eastern hunter-gatherer ancestry arrived, beginning around 10,000 years ago or so. Now, the most likely explanation for this is a very ancient Eurasian gene flow flowing into ancient Scandinavia from the east, with later waves of Eastern hunter-gatherers bringing far more blonde hair alleles with them. So the point being is that this trait in Sweden has a very long history, and it was gene flow from the east that brought this trait into both Scandinavia and Eastern Europe. And if we turn back to this list of the countries today with the highest rates of blonde hair, we can see this genetic legacy of Eastern migrations. You can see that Western European countries like Spain and Portugal don't have high frequencies of this trait, who are influenced more by Western hunter-gatherers. Yet European populations to the east and to the north have much higher levels. The likes of Finland, Scandinavia, and the Baltic states like Estonia are very high. And this is mainly due to Eastern admixture. with Finnish people also having a Siberian ancestral component in their DNA, something I note in a previous video. I should also note as well that Iceland was largely settled by the Vikings, that we know had high levels of blonde hair as well, probably similar to Scandinavian levels today. But it's pretty cool that the blonde hair map of Europe still reflects this arrival of Eastern ancestry thousands and potentially over 10,000 years ago. Now later events compounded this, with the Yamnaya waves of migration from the Pontic-Caspian steppe carrying some of these genes into Europe, as although they tended to have darker hair expressed, as this reconstruction shows, they did carry some blonde hair genes. This is because around half their ancestry came from Eastern hunter-gatherers. Another half came from a people related to hunter-gatherers from the Caucasus. Now connected people to the Yamnaya often spread this steppe ancestry, such as the battle axe culture in Scandinavia. So in other words, the genetic capacity for blonde hair was brought into Europe by waves of migrations from the east. Now if you're enjoying this video, please consider subscribing. And if you would like access to member-only videos, including one on Viking DNA differences, please check out the top link in the video description below. Thank you, and now on with the video. Yet in hunter-gatherer times, or during the Bronze Age as well, blonde hair wasn't as common as it is in many parts of the world today, like Sweden. So what other factors drove the evolution of blonde hair? Well, sexual attractiveness was probably a major selection driver. We know that even today, blonde hair is generally the most common colour for women to dye their hair. And some have argued that in post-Ice Age Europe, there was intense competition for mates in sparsely populated tundra environments. Now a really interesting paper was published in 2006 in Evolution in Human Behaviour by the anthropologist Peter Frost. They looked at the diversity of European hair and eye colour. Frost argued that in parts of post-Ice Age Europe, high male mortality in hunting could have left more women than men unmated at any one time. This could have meant that women with novel, attention-catching features, such as blonde hair, had a better chance of attracting a mate. Yet sexual attractiveness isn't the only factor. Climate is likely another. Now we know that blonde hair is more common in people with fair skin, which in turn is more efficient at making vitamin D from sunlight. This is well suited to the northern climes of Scandinavia and the Nordic world in general, of course. There could also be a founder effect at play as well. A small initial population carrying blonde hair alleles can, through genetic drift and expansion, become nearly an entire nation of blondes over time. So a combination of these factors is likely at play. Now the Viking Age could provide another reason why Sweden has such high levels of blonde hair compared to Norway and Denmark. We know that during the Viking Age, Sweden experienced gene flow from the Baltic states. This is a region with pretty high levels of blonde hair, as we noted earlier. Norway, on the other hand, had gene flow from mainly Britain and Ireland, and Denmark saw ancestry from as far afield as southern Europe. And we know that Danes had slightly higher levels of black hair during the Viking Age than today, something a 2020 study found. Therefore, Sweden never had a major dilution event during this time. So the prevalence of blonde hair in Sweden is probably the result of various factors, but this influx of Eastern hunter-gatherer ancestry was a massive one, which was likely compounded by numerous variables over time. But what do you think? Please let me know in the comments below, and if you have blonde hair. Now what does your eye colour say about your ancestry? Well, to find out, please click here. Thanks for watching, please subscribe and hit the bell, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.